6:30. I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's February 8th regular school board meeting. So again, welcome. Hopefully everyone's staying warm. Hopefully everyone can see a flag where you're at and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Thank you. I'll be glad when we're back in person all together, saying that together, because I know one of these days I'm going to mess up the words. All right. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda for February 8th?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the February 8th, 2021 agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
I don't see that. It's not appearing, is it? Oh, okay. I see it.
Any questions on the agenda? All right. All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right. Do any board members have anything they would like to report this evening? Anybody? I know it is difficult times to be getting around and getting to activities because there aren't activities, and it's difficult to get into some of the few that are going on. So there's not quite as many things to report on, but
Mr. President,
Mr. Landers.
I will report though that the student activities that are going on, swimming, wrestling, girls basketball, boys basketball, you can go on the Facebook page and find those games. Now they're not, you don't have an announcement person and all that, but there you can keep up with the activities. Concerts have been that way. It's just something you can check into and find out what it is, and it beats what's on television, I can tell you that. Thank you.
I have been trying to get around to see some of the ongoing construction projects. A lot of great things going on. I just really hope we can have a ribbon cutting ceremony for the whole Herndon Culinary Institute sometime soon. It is just an amazing facility.
There's also a chance to watch the Raytown High Performance. They're going to live stream it of Pippin on the 18th and 20th, 18th through the 20th of February. So that's kind of cool too.
All right. Anyone else? All right, thank you. All right. School Board Recognition Week coming up, so I didn't have anything to say about that. Appreciate all my fellow board members for the work they do. I enjoy getting those cards and letters from the kids every year. That's my favorite thing, especially the elementary kids. So. All right. Report of Superintendent, Dr. Markley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would say, if it's okay with the board, we'll come back to me, but could we go down to public comment period on the agenda items, as we will have a recommendation for school reopening tonight. It might be a good idea to hear from the speakers prior to that.
All right.
Would that be all right with the board?
It's fine with me. Melissa will be ready to bring them in, and I will go ahead and read the names. We have 6 people who have asked to speak to the board this evening, and so you'll have 3 minutes each since we have that number. Rachel and Melissa will help keep track of that. The first one is Brianna Bonner. Brianna, are you out there?
Can everyone hear me?
Hi, Brianna. Yes, we see you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Raytown School Board. My name is Brianna Bonner, and I'm here to plead that you do not send middle and high schoolers back to the in-person hybrid. I'm not here to argue the emotional aspects. There are others that can do that far better than me. Instead, I just want to go over the cold, hard data. Board members, sending us back is not at all worth the risk to the general public. The risk for students contracting COVID is too high. From the CDC, quote, children and adolescents with underlying medical conditions are at severe increased risk for severe illnesses from COVID-19. Additionally, some students may develop rare but serious conditions associated with COVID-19 called multi-system inflammatory system in children. While the number of children who has been hospitalized with COVID-19 has been low with compared to adults, 1/3 of hospitalized children with COVID-19 have been admitted to the intensive care unit. The CDC goes on to state that the lowest risk form of learning is virtual only classes and activities. It is often portrayed as acceptable to send students back in person because they are quote unquote less likely to get sick. But this isn't a good reason for doing something. The data states that children do get sick. 1/3 of them end up in an intensive care unit, and the long-term effects of the respiratory disease could be deadly. It doesn't matter if students are less likely to die directly from COVID. If we can avoid students getting sick, we should. This doesn't even cover the real damage that could happen to our teachers, our grandparents, our parents. Booker T. Washington Magnet School, a public school in Alabama, lost four teachers in less than a week. I hope that the point I'm making is clear. The costs of going back to school are devastating, and the benefits are slim to none. Furthermore, our state, city, and community are already straining from the virus. We cannot afford to add more pressure. Zooming out, Missouri has the 18th highest rate of viral test positivity in the nation and the 19th highest new COVID-related hospital admissions. Zooming in, we can see that Jackson County is in the top 12 worst counties in Missouri based on the number of new cases in the last 3 weeks. Zooming in a little more to Kansas City, we can observe that KC is in the orange danger zone with an increase of 4% COVID alone this week. KC experienced 529 cases last week, 99 cases in the last 7 days, and a whopping total of 36,000 cases in the entire metro area. There have been 481 hospitalizations this month alone. Zooming in further to our home, zip code 64138, the place where we go to school, where we live and we work. The place where this very board meeting will be happening in person if it were not for COVID safety precautions. Since February 3rd, Raytown has had 808 cases. The number of COVID-19 cases normalized to the population of the zip code is 5,986.07 thousand per 100,000. And these numbers aren't even completely accurate, as the number of tests is only 4,379. And the vaccine data has yet to come in. These are not numbers I pulled from random places. All this evidence is from the Missouri Department, the CDC, and the KCMO Health Department. I could go on and on and on, reading evidence about the dangers of COVID-19 on our communities, my parents, my teachers, and my fellow classmates. But you've seen all of this data before. At what point do we stop looking at these test scores and this productivity, and we start caring about the actual behind the test scores, behind the pencils, and we start caring about the teachers that are helping us? Please do not send us back, as some of us are statistically doomed to die. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Brianna. Appreciate that. Kristen Bell. Hi, Kristen. Are you out there?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi there. Go ahead.
Hi.
Thank you.
So first, I would like to point out the fact that we were scheduled to get, the teachers were scheduled to get their vaccine within the next couple months, and the fact that we're thinking about bringing them back sooner than later, even though we haven't even got our vaccines yet, is a problem. it's very inconsiderate of you guys to try and bring us back before we get the vaccines, because plenty of teachers have people at home that are high risk. Students have people that are at home that are also high risk, and that is very, very, very tone deaf of everybody who thinks that we should go back. And I understand that there is a reason that we should, because of learning and how virtual learning is very hard on people. But at the end of the day, it's deaths. People are dying, and I feel like, and I know a lot of other people feel like, coming back before we get these vaccines, before the virus stops, is simply just there's no morale to that. There's no ethical value to doing that. I personally feel that going back before we get these vaccines shouldn't happen. And my counterpart, Brianna, has already stated all the facts that needed to be said. There's nothing else for me to say because all the facts have been stated. Every single thing that she said was every reason why we need to stay at home. There's nothing else for me to say at this point. I hope you guys take in consideration what we're saying to you, your students, and your teachers, and how it simply cannot keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. And I hope I'm saying everyone's name correctly. Jamie Thompson. There's Jamie, but we can't see you and you are still on mute.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were called on me.
There you go.
Hi, can you
Yeah.
see me? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'll just be reading from my phone. Okay. Due to the fact that just last month cases and deaths were skyrocketing for 2 weeks straight, I believe we should not go back to school until the 21-22 school year. We lost over 20,000 people in a week and continue to set records just that next week. Please let me repeat the fact that we are setting records for most cases and deaths in a day just last month. I think we misconstrued the idea of what quarantine is. Yes, we do it because we don't want to catch COVID. Yes, we do it because we don't want to pass it on to our family members. But we are also helping with something more important: the people on the front lines, the nurses and doctors who have to deal with COVID patients. In several states, the hospitals are so filled they have to put patients in the hallways. Starting quote. Some of the state's largest metros, including Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, and Springfield, are at 80% ICU capacity or more, end quote. We quarantine to slow the spread of the virus so that our healthcare system is not overflowed more than it already is. We quarantine to help the immune compromised in any way we can. It is imperative that we do not go back to school until the 21-22 school year. Let's talk vaccines now. I believe that the reason why we are talking about going back to school is because there is a corona vaccine, but the light at the end of the tunnel is not as close as you think. The vaccine has to be administered twice, and we aren't even sure if the company producing the vaccine can keep up with the supply and demand of vaccinating America. It will take months to get back to something even remotely normal. To reiterate what my counterparts and I are saying is that it is imperative that we are not sent back to school. Thank you for your time. My evidence is from the Kansas City Star, New York Times, and Reuters.com.
Sorry about that again. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next one is Chinachiram Hayanacho, and I hope I said that close to correctly.
Chinachiram Hayanacho.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. Appreciate that.
Thank you guys so much. So one thing I just want to point out is when looking at, especially with teachers overall, they will be at risk if, especially teachers who are immune deficient, like, you know that several teachers are pregnant and that is putting their children at risk too. And also understanding that sometimes there are kids who perform well in school and there are also other kids who perform well with this virtual learning. For me, example, I'm doing well in this virtual learning, but that doesn't mean that there won't be that doesn't mean that going back to school will resolve everything. And then looking back at when we go back to school, some children who had the choice to be in school could choose virtual. And basically, because I chose to go back to school when we do open, but with the high risk that my other counterparts were saying, with that high risk, I could choose to go back to virtual. And a lot of kids do have that option. So when we do that, we're basically we're not being considerate of the issues that could result with going back to school, because some kids might not want to wear their mask. And I know that it will be required when we do go back to school, but there are other kids who might not want to do that. There are other kids who might not want to distance. And then, for example, it will be hard for teachers to be putting on a mask while there's students in the classroom and also trying to teach kids who are in Zoom classes. You can barely see the teachers' faces. You cannot do presentations how we used to. You can't cooperate, you can't share materials. So it would be better for us to do virtual, because we're practically doing the same thing that we're going to be doing in school. And also we need to understand that some kids we also need to understand that some kids who do go back to school might face other like health risk as well, because they might be forced by their parents to go back to school if they don't want to. Another last thing I want to say is that I think it's very important for us to understand that going back to school it's not going to be normal. It's not going to be like how we know it to be. So virtual is like a way to go until we get the vaccines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Amanda Trotter. Hi, Amanda, and we can see you, but you're still, there you go. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. First of all, I would like to begin by saying thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak before the board tonight. I requested to speak tonight because I feel I can provide a perspective that maybe you all have not heard yet. I have 3 children in the Raytown School District, and I also work for the district. My oldest daughter is a senior this year at Raytown High School. She's been in the district since she started kindergarten. I have a son who is a sophomore at Raytown High and another son in the 5th grade at Fleet Ridge Elementary. I also work as a registrar at Herndon Career Center. Tonight, I ask the board to please listen and take into consideration what COVID has done to me and how it now affects my daily life before voting to send teachers back in person on March the 1st without having the opportunity to be vaccinated. On Friday, October 16th, my husband and I received a notification from the high school that someone on the basketball team tested positive for COVID, and that my son, along with the rest of the team, would then need a quarantine for the next 2 weeks. The very next day, my son started showing symptoms. 3 days after that, I started showing symptoms. 2 days later, my daughter started showing symptoms. My husband and my youngest son were the only 2 in our family that did not get COVID due to the positive exposure at this school activity. I was able to return back to work around November the 5th. However, a week after returning to work, I started experiencing shortness of breath, chest pain, wheezing, dizziness, and spikes in my blood pressure. After a few long weeks and many tests, a CT scan revealed that I have extensive damage to my lungs from COVID. Prior to contracting COVID, I had no underlying health conditions. I now have to use an inhaler daily for my shortness of breath. I still experience wheezing, chest pain, headaches, extreme fatigue, and unexplained spikes in blood pressure on my bad days. There's still so much that my doctors do not know about what COVID has done to my body and how to best treat it. I have unfortunately joined thousands of Americans whom doctors now refer to as long haulers. For my mental well-being, I've had to join a support group to build connections with those like myself who are still suffering. I wanted to share my story because I do not feel it is safe, and I'm asking you to not send secondary students back in person until all of our teachers that want to get vaccinated are given the opportunity to do so. I truly want best for all of our students, and I work every day in our district for these students. And I do fully understand, as you guys do, that students learn better in person in our physical classrooms. And I know my own children, they want to be back in person as well. But I worry for every teacher whose health will be put at risk by sending them back in person before they are able to be vaccinated. I worry every day about all of our teachers that are already back in person. I'm only one person, but I only have one life, and I fear my own health has been changed forever. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that. And then finally, Daniel Green. Hi,
Hello?
Daniel. Go ahead. Thank you.
So I would like to argue to the board of the merits of returning back to school on March 1st. And to start out, I will admit, COVID-19 is a threat to many people, but it's not something that will go away. A vaccine isn't just a magic cure for it. It will be around much longer than that. And we need to start getting some sort of normalcy back in our lives in some form. There is statistic data for this area that shows that COVID-19 cases are drastically decreasing from what they were multiple weeks ago in our local area. And then, so moving on to why we should go back to school. So, there is a lot of problems with mental health associated with this. There is no social interaction whatsoever, even through Zoom. It damages mental health, and depression and anxiety and other mental illnesses that are very, very serious have become a lot more common. Through some statistics done at colleges, through their students, 75% of college students that have never had a condition like that have developed some sort of it. And as an extension, moving in 2019, before the pandemic, 8.9% of adolescents in high school attempted suicide, and 18.8% considered it. And due to this pandemic and virtual learning and everything about the pandemic, these rates have skyrocketed. Moving on from that, on virtual learning, there is no motivation to show up. It's causing declining grades and attendance, which has been a big factor I can see in all of my classes. And not all learning styles are catered to. I can say personally, a lot of the information we cover one day and we don't use again throughout the rest of the year until a test. We forget it all because there's only so many assignments that a virtual setting can allow. I've read reports of children losing interest in education completely, like subjects they used to be interested in, they completely lost interest in. In addition, the pandemic has increased adolescent drug use, alcohol, cannabis, meth, everything. And then also, school has always been a place that protects students. It provides them with lunch. It protects them from bad situations at home. It's been a place where a large amount of students can escape abuse in all forms, whether that be physical, mental, or even sexual abuse, which is really bad, but it happens. It can span all the grade levels, elementary, secondary. It's not something that many people will know. A lot of students, with a lot of people in general, if stuff like that happens, they try to hide it from other people and don't want other people to know. School has provided much needed discipline for students. It's provided them valuable guidance through life. It's taught them social skills, and it's provided a warm meal for everyone that needs it. And
All right.
just,
Thank you, Daniel. I'm going to have to ask you to come to an end right now.
okay. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Daniel. Appreciate everyone who addressed the board this evening. And I will turn it back over to Dr. Markley to continue with your report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just you mentioned this at the beginning. School Board Recognition Week is February the 14th to the 19th, 2021. And I think there's going to be some more information on that in presentations and recognitions. Moving on down through legislative update, as you know, the General Assembly is in full swing. I should say full swing, that may be a little too much. They've had to shut the Capitol down on the House side for a week because of advancing COVID cases and quarantines. They have continued and picked up their work, but there's several bills out there. Most importantly, a bill that's moving right now and will probably find its way on the Senate floor for debate here very soon. That's Senate Bill 55, which is sponsored by the Education Chair, Senator O'Laughlin. It has moved out of committee, and all these bills, these school reform bills, are being voted out of committee and can be put on the calendar of both the House or the Senate and be brought up at any time. And they range from virtual instruction to charter school expansion and also to tuition tax credit vouchers. Some of those bills are becoming omnibus bills like they have in the past. And as they move through session, they continue to grow. And some of those are bills are capturing other bills, like one that's a recall of board members, school board members specifically, is out there. And I think that's a lot of that has to do with schools not being in session, et cetera. So it's all in the political mantra that it lays upon. We'll continue to monitor those. I know you get the MSBA updates weekly as a board, and we are also forwarding bills to our teachers that have interest in school reform or some other school platforms that are out there. So move on down to through the elementary principal reports and secondary principal reports. Any questions on any of those from any board members? You've had those prior to, you can read, but we'd be certainly happy to answer any questions. Okay, in school and out of school suspension reports are there, along with the monthly data review and the grant writers report, which I don't believe there's anything to report this month, but we do have that as a placeholder. Any questions there before we move on to 6.8? Okay, 6.8, safety center proposal. A few months ago, we've had some developers come to us and they have some interest in the property that we have over on Frost Road, which contains, it used to be called the old safety center, or it's still called the safety center, but that's years ago, is where Raytown was kind of the hub for the driver's ed instruction throughout the metropolitan area. A lot of the district sent their kids here when we had driver's ed in the curriculum, which currently those have been ended. But we also use that site for storage, for salt storage in particular at this point, and the BMX track is also located there. But we thought, well, with a proposal, what are they looking to do with the property? We know the board wanted to know that, so we invited them to come tonight for about 10 minutes to give us an idea of what they intend to do. So Dr. Shelton, are they out there ready to be queued up?
Yes, Dr. Markley, thank you. Bob Crow is a real estate broker with NRE Advisors, and he is here tonight. I believe the developers may or may not be with them, but Bob hopefully will be able to provide us some scope of the work that they're wanting to do and any other information or answer any questions that you may have. Bob, are you there? Melissa, is Bob in the meeting?
I see him, Dr. Shelton.
Bob, are you?
Bob, you need to unmute.
Yeah. This is the first time I've used Zoom, so I'm sorry.
That's okay, Bob. Thank you for being with us.
Okay. So everyone can hear me, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. The principal who was hoping to be with us tonight is 3 hours into a 6-hour flight. He's a charter pilot. And so it's Wayne Adelson. He apologizes for not being able to be here. I can speak for them for the most part. Basically, the plan is to take the lower part of the property. There's 59 total acres. And the lower part comprises approximately 33 acres of difficult land. Let me put it that way. The upper 26 is more usable for development down the road. And on the 33, on the lower part, they would be proposing to continue some mining work, rock quarry work on the east side, and then on the west side, eventually develop a lake. It's not going to be too big, but it'll be something, it'll be nice. And the 26 acres up above would eventually be used for residential development. And there are no plans at this point in time as to exactly what that is. So I'm basically here to answer questions. I've told Steve several times that they want to be good neighbors and be cooperative with the school board any way they can. So I'm open for questions.
But do we have a written offer?
We submitted one some time ago, and basically we just were put on hold. And I presume that the board was not ready to talk about it yet. So we've just been on hold.
And just to reiterate, Bob, those discussions we'll have in close because they're contractual of nature. But the idea was to kind of get an idea of what your site project was going to look like, you know, potential drawings, something the board could look at, see, etc. I mean, we've heard you explain that. Is there something other than the questions that they might have here, but some type of documents that can be forwarded over to us that they can preview that will open even more questions potentially for them moving down the road?
Well, the answer is no, but we can create them. We didn't want to go to that expense unless someone was willing to move forward at the school district. So we can have the engineers start on that for sure. And we can send that in to you all for discussion.
Well, I think it'd be useful to have a deal sheet. You know, you talk about the houses that are going to be developed, you know, what kind of homes, what kind of prices, what time period would be nice to know. And generally, when we've looked at situations like this, we've been presented with at least a deal sheet and maybe even contract. So
well, you do have a contract, but it's from several months ago. And let's just set that aside for the moment. I can have some drawings prepared. The residential part would not start until they finish quarrying the little piece of property on the east side of the lower 33. So it would be 2 to 3 years probably before residential development would start.
Bob, I have a question. I think
we can't talk about too much specifics here because it is having to do with real estate, but there was no interest in the board at that time of the offer to accept the offer. And we've heard developers wanting to do something with this property for over 15 years. And I would just suggest that you come back to us with specifics and some specific timeframes if you want the board to develop more of an interest in selling that property. I personally have no interest in selling that property.
I will also, I think, answer a question that needs to be asked, and it's probably getting ready to ask it. But Bob, do you know if the developer is looking to request some types of tax abatement or incentive for this project?
Not, they've guaranteed me, and we will have that in the contract, that they are not going to be looking for any incentives or tax abatements. We've discussed that with Steve several times. But we'll put that in the contract.
I know that you mentioned the acreage. Do you know how many residential or how many single family units you're talking about approximately?
Well, we really haven't gotten that far because it's a couple of years off. They need to get through with the mining first, then build the lake and then the houses. But I would guess we're looking at probably 3 to 4, probably more like 3.5 lots per acre, something like that. So we would be probably less than 100 houses, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think we need to move on. Mr. Preston.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Bob.
Do you want me to submit
Over any
additional
information that you feel is pertinent for us? All right, Dr. Markley.
Yeah, we'll follow up again with you, Bob, and get back with you, Steve,
Okay.
and I will tomorrow and talk about any type of additional documents we can pull together to give the board a better idea about what the project might entail.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 6.9, Rqs Reopening Plan. We've heard from speakers tonight. Back during the January meeting, we proposed coming back on the secondary side on April the 5th. We're tracking cases. We also said at that time, if it looked like there's potential for us to come back sooner, we present data that or things that are happening around us that might warrant an earlier start. And we are, as an administration, we are going to recommend tonight the board to consider coming back on March the 1st for several reasons. You know, we've been in 2 weeks now, I think, fully on the elementary side. We've noticed that our own COVID dashboard is trending down. We've not seen community spread on our side since not only since we've been back, but also prior to coming back, we had no evidence of community spread. I'd give you the Jackson County dashboard information, but that has been taken down and they are restructuring the way they're reporting that. But what we're hearing and from the individual meetings that we have with them every week, it occurs on Tuesday at 1 o'clock, the countywide or Eastern Jackson County cases have been diminishing, and that is starting to subside somewhat. We're not seeing as many cases. We're noting that some districts around us are having some success and have been having success since the beginning of school. At this point, we are one of 3 districts with a low number of secondary students that are actually back in class. As you know, that we have students at Herndon Career Center. We have some students also that are on IEPs that are back in class on a daily basis or a hybrid basis at the Herndon Career Center. And at this time, all districts are considering some sort of March return with their secondary students. Mid last week, the CDC came out and said that schools could safely return. And then again on Friday, there was some discussion on what does that actually look like as far as a return. So I think they kind of walked that statement back a little bit, but told us that there would be some guidance this week on what that safely returning would look like. Although they noted during the time of the prior statement that all those districts that are using the mitigation efforts that are recommended by the CDC would surely see a better situation in their return. You know, as we look at the pros and the cons, we certainly know, and we've heard it from one student tonight on the mental health issues. We see the mental health issues. We know what it's done academically for our kids as far as the number of D's and F's. When we do return, we do look to do it in a hybrid model. And what that looks like, remember, we're not coming back full time with all of our students. We can't do that in accordance with the guidelines that are given us on 1 from the CDC and 2 from Jackson County. We'd be coming in on an A/B type situation where a student would come to school like on a Monday, Tuesday. School would be out on Wednesday for deep cleaning. And when I say out, I mean no students in at the secondary. And then on Thursday, Friday, another section of students would be coming in. So we're looking at in the neighborhood of 60 to 75% of the potential total population, that way keeping class size down. And while they're not in class, they would be doing the asynchronous model of instruction where those lessons would be recorded and they'd be listening to them on the days that we're not in session. The cons, the big one is the potential exposure to the virus. We know that's out there. We also know with the vaccines, when they first started rolling out, we thought February was going to be our month to get them. And then a different type of system was initiated by our governor. So that pushed vaccines into March. Heard late last week that those vaccines could go into April from our governor. And just across the state line, we see Kansas teachers are getting the vaccine as we speak. So it's hard to tell when those vaccines, we've been told one thing and told another. I don't know if we can count on the vaccines being there on a certain date for a potential return. But we would be recommending the board to view that option of coming back to March the 1st. If things change between now and that date, we can come back together and make a change. But as the trend lines and things are going right now, we feel like a March return is something that we need to try. And with that being said, we're open to questions. Dr. Huff, Dr. Shelton, Dr. Hux from the board.
I would first just add, so we know Lee Summit, Independence, and Blue Springs are already back. You know that, right? Is Grandview back?
Grandview's back. They've got about 200 kids in their high school. They're adding students every couple of weeks, numbers. They are back in the middle schools.
And do we know what Kansas City's plan is yet?
Kansas City plans to come back in March. That's their plan right now. They too are in the same situation that we are, as far as they're looking at the numbers trending down and hoping potentially for a vaccine and weighing all those options. Center and Hickman are in the same situation. I will note that Blue Springs, Independence, they have been in since September the 8th in the secondary. Now, Independence on a hybrid model, I believe, but Blue Springs has been in at 80% capacity since September the 8th.
And Lee Summit is hybrid right now?
Lee Summit is in a hybrid plan, yes, and they started that a week or two ago, I believe.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, I had a question, I think, for Dr. Huff, because he was the one talking about this before. Dr. Huff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a few months ago when we were talking about secondary going back, you especially were talking about teachers and how they were going to plan their lessons, and it was going to be really difficult for them to maintain this, some students there and some students not there, and then plan the lessons. Do you think that now they feel like they think that they can do that?
It'll be hard. And I think what you're referring to are some classes that we're going to have teachers will have students that are both in person and virtual at the same time.
And that will still be a possibility.
It actually will happen.
It will be
most classes, a teacher will either have virtual or in person. And so if they do have an in-person class, it'll look as the model that Dr. Markley had mentioned, where they'll have half of their students on Monday, Tuesday, the other half on Thursday, Friday. These other classes, though, where we have 3 sections or less of a class, this typically are upper level high school classes where we just don't have very many sections of the class. They will have both virtual and in-person kids. And so while they're teaching their Monday, Tuesday class, they're going to have students that are in the classroom and students that are online with them at the same time. That is a difficult teaching model, and our teachers will have trouble with it. But that is about 15% of our classes are going to be in that model. The majority of our classes are going to be purely virtual or in person.
Okay, and I talked to you one day a couple of weeks ago, and you said that when you got when the district got the go-ahead, or the board voted to return, that you needed 2 weeks to get ready. And so in that 2 weeks, what will be the things that you will have to do?
All right, so administratively, we've already divided the students out. So the counselors, the assistant principals worked really hard to purify the classes. So get them where you have a purely virtual or purely in-person class. So they've gotten as prepared as possible to this point. Really what we need to do from here on out, if the board says go, then teachers need to make adjustments in their instruction. Several of them are going to need to prepare their classrooms because they haven't had anybody there, and they're going to need to take time to do that. We're also going to have to work on very specific processes for different things that happen in a school. As for instance, we need to make up lunch shifts. Just one example, to where we don't have too many students in the cafeteria at once. We can maintain social distancing and all that sort of thing. Potentially having students eat in the classroom. This is something that the building principals will work out with their staff. And it's going to take them a couple of weeks to get some of these details worked out. How are they going to get to the buses? How are they going to use the bathrooms? These are all very specific challenges that we need to have, we need to wait until we get that go ahead to put in place, because there's so many nuances of the time frame of when we would get started. So they need at least 2 weeks to do that. And also we need a couple of weeks for food service to order food, for transportation to get everything lined out. So there's all kinds of different little things that need to happen in those 2 weeks.
What will the weekly schedule look like?
We'll have A kids and B kids. And so keep in mind that at the high schools and middle schools, about 60% of our students, 65% of our students are in person. So half of those students will be attending on an A day, half students on a B day. So you're going to have about 35%, 30 to 35% of your students in the building at one time. Those students will attend A students on Monday, Tuesday, B students on Thursday, Friday. Wednesday will be an asynchronous. Well, actually, this is, again, details that principals and teachers will work out is exactly what it looks like, but asynchronous activities. And then the days that the students are virtual, they'll have asynchronous activities for the classroom.
Were they assigned to A and B just randomly, or?
No, we assigned that at actually the beginning of the year, and it was based on transportation. So we did it by bus stop, and that way that we get our buses to have half capacity as well. And so we tried to, and it also helped keep us in family groups, so that a family would have all their kids going on an A day or all their kids on a B day, which would make it a little easier to manage the household.
All right.
Now,
And
just keep in
Dr.
mind too, though, and I'm sorry, just a little bit more on Rick Moore's question.
Okay.
So even though we do have kids there for half the day, half the kids there on each day, that doesn't necessarily mean that every class will have exactly half the number of students on each day, because obviously when you go from first period to second period to third period to fourth period, they're all shuffled up. Now, Andrea Mixon has worked very, very carefully with the principals to identify classes where there's bubbles, and we're trying to make sure that no class has any more than 20 students in it. I'm sorry, Amy.
Well, I had one more question. You talked about things that teachers and administrators would be doing in 2 weeks for this 2 week period, which is a little more than 2 weeks if we start the first, but anyway, about 2 weeks. Is there a time that teachers will have available for them to work in their rooms and prepare them and work on some things that would have to be done, where they would have to be at school, talking with their administrators or with other teachers? If they're teaching virtually, then when will be a time when they can go work in their room?
So when we made the transition for elementary school, we gave a couple, or at least one, asynchronous day for the teachers that assign work. And now we haven't worked that out specifically with the secondary, but I'll tell you that my recommendation would be that we have at least a day and maybe more that would be purely asynchronous, that would allow the teachers to be able to have that time necessary to prepare their rooms and also processes.
Yeah. Because some of that can be done by administrators, but yet
Yes.
when the things that you were mentioning, there would have to be processes for specifically for the classrooms too.
Teachers have really great input as to what their desires are for this, and the questions have already started fairly specifically. And we do want to be very careful to listen to the input that they have, because they're the ones who are going to be in the classroom with the students.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Alonzo, is that you?
That was me, but go ahead.
I'll wait for you.
So the significance of March 1st is the 2 weeks we need to prepare. And how many days of in-person instruction are we looking at till the end of the year if we go back in March?
It'll be, I can't give the exact number, Mr. Burton, but you're looking at in the neighborhood of 60 days total.
If we, I know one of the reasons I said I guess one of the pros for going back is the relief of the mental stress and the performance as far as as far as education and in the classroom. Do we have any do we have any indication? Have we made any improvements in our virtual instruction that may be? I'm always concerned about not knowing exactly what our goal is. You know, we know that in person is better, but even in the primary, have we noticed an improvement in some of the things that we said was a con to being virtual? And I guess lastly, I'd ask, is hybrid better than all virtual?
You asked a lot of good questions there, Mr. Burton.
Yeah,
let me address the first one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. And if I don't answer to your liking, please ask again. I'll address first off, as we brought our students back into the elementary school, you asked if we're seeing a notable difference. I can't say that we have very specific empirical data that would show that we have a difference. Like the empirical data we do have shows that we do have a lag on where we would anticipate our students to be at this point versus where they are. Now the anecdotal data though definitely shows that it is worth being back in school every day, all day, as our elementary students are. The impact of virtual instruction on our younger students, it was evident in the data that we pulled. We did show that there is a significant lag for our K1, 2, and even the third grade. We did see moderate lag for our older students. They are better able to handle the virtual setting. You'd asked about, what we've done to try to help our virtual instruction. I'll tell you that unequivocally, I am proud as can be about our instruction in the virtual setting. Our teachers are outstanding at it. We've given them all the tools they need. Everything they've asked for, we've said yes to. We've poured finances into getting the tools that we need, that we think are necessary. And I will say that our teachers are outstanding. And if you were to look specifically at what we do in the virtual setting compared to what surrounding districts are doing, we're providing a much more personal model for our students. And that goes all the way up through high school. And so I'm very proud of the kind of program we're putting forth. You'd asked then about the effectiveness of a hybrid. I believe you asked, is the hybrid going to be as effective as being in school virtually? That is a complex question. And in some facets of it, I don't believe it's better. In some facets of it, I believe it is better. I believe that there are going to be some things instructionally that, especially for our upper level kids, it's probably going to be better for us to be virtual. But you can't look at just one small facet of what it means to be a student and what education means to them. As far as the overall student goes, I believe it is more beneficial for us to be in the hybrid model, but that does not mean that it's all better to be in the hybrid model. There are certainly aspects of it that may be better in the virtual model.
Okay. And has any thought given? I know, I mean, I would hate to be, especially like a senior or high school student that has to go to school and not be in person. It's a horrible situation we're in. But considering the fact that we're talking March, we've come this far, and we're close to. We seem to be, as one of the students put, we seem to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Is it to continue as we were? Is that an advantage? Wouldn't that be an advantage with seeing that we're so close to the end of not just the end of the virus or the pandemic, but the end of the school year?
I'd say one of the arguments for staying virtual is that that argument of consistency. And that is certainly an argument to consider. Consistency is certainly part of the process, although we have noted that the virtual program is not as good as the in-person program. Who knows what the future holds? And one of the things that I have stopped doing is trying to predict the future. It is very difficult in this setting to predict what is going to happen in some of the unknowns. We do know that again, students are multifaceted. It's not just their academics that are important. There are a myriad of issues that come up, and our speakers that all talked or spoke to the board a few moments ago. They really hit the gamut of it, and I think did a nice job of bringing up all the different issues that need to be considered. It is not straightforward. It is not simple, and it is not 100% predictable. I do believe that when you look at the whole child, that it is necessary to come back to school in some form or fashion.
I think I'm done for now.
Could I ask a question, Rick? I think this issue with mental health with kids is a serious one. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Dakota Wilbur over the course of the last several weeks, and he's taught me a lot about how tragic this pandemic has been to seniors and others in secondary at a level that I hadn't really appreciated. And that's going to be an issue we're going to suffer for a long period of time. And I feel bad about that. But I had the pleasure today, I guess, of getting my vaccine. And I got it because I'm old and because I'm high risk. And I carry that with me, so they took me in. So they told me that it'll be 4 weeks before I get my booster, and then it'll probably be 3 weeks after that before I'll be where I can have a normal life. So that's 7 weeks. Now, that's what we're looking at before if we had vaccinated our teachers tomorrow, we'd be looking that far ahead, and that concerns me. Now we could also, as Dr. Markley said, we could look to the CDC, where last week they said, well, you don't need to be vaccinated, and then on Saturday the White House said, well, we didn't really mean that, and then this week they're supposed to come out with some guidance on whether you need to be vaccinated. And I'm puzzled by why they would say no. I'm puzzled by that. All right, so that's an editorial. The one thing that I know that we've been discussing is other districts. And Dr. Markley, Mark Bettel, who's the superintendent of Kansas City, Missouri, I believe you know him. Dr. Markley, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I do know Mark Bedell.
Mark Bedell said today in the paper, he said, we'll come back, meaning the teachers, when we're vaccinated. And that's been they haven't been back to school, I think, since the fall. And that's been that's been their view. And I know others have differing views. So he's pretty strong on that. How strong are you to ask teachers to come back without the vaccine And if they had the vaccine, it'd be 7 weeks before they would be in a capacity that would approach normal. How strong do you feel about us going back without teachers being vaccinated?
Well, let me start by saying that what my colleague said. I will say that there are over 31 districts that are signing a letter to the governor to get teachers into the front line of getting these vaccines from what we've been dealing with over the past. Everybody still hear me? I think we froze.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody moving. So as long as you can hear me. Okay. So that letter will be going out. And just as far as the question goes, how strongly I feel about the vaccines, about bringing teachers back, we've already brought those teachers back on the elementary side and asked them to teach. And we've brought teachers back, obviously without students in the secondary, but they're back into the buildings. We feel that bringing the secondary kids back on a very limited basis provides us the least amount of risk for our staff in the secondary level, and hopefully gives us some benefit of students that you mentioned, the mental health risk, but also the academic risks that they're under. And I don't know if everybody heard that or not, because I'm still frozen.
Yes, we can hear you.
Let me, if I hit. Hang on. There we go.
We heard you fine.
Okay, good. Good. Very good. So that's where I'm at with it, Mr. Toady.
So the example that you're giving is the elementary kids, and that we asked the teachers to go back before they were vaccinated.
Correct.
And we've had good experience.
We have.
Is it your serious recommendation that despite teachers at the secondary level have not been vaccinated, it is your sincere opinion that we should send them back into school starting March the 1st? Are you steadfast in that belief?
Well, I'm in the belief with the information that I have in hand as far as what I've presented tonight. There's no evidence of community spread, with the amount of cases that are going down, the number of quarantines that are going. That doesn't mean that if we do come back and we start to see a surge, where we may have to come out again, depending. We have to let the data show us what to do. But now what the data is showing us, that we do have the opportunity to come back at a very limited basis.
So let me ask you then, and I'll finish. You're aware the CDC is going to provide some guidance on vaccine. You're probably aware that Tony Fauci was not excited about the idea of coming back without vaccination, and you're probably aware that that the CDC has at least said that teachers are essential workers, meaning it's pretty important that they get vaccinated. You're aware of that. Would it be better to be a little more cautious and wait until the CDC gives us their guidance, the scientists give us their guidance on whether it's appropriate for us to ask our teachers to go back into the schools before they're vaccinated? Would that be a middle ground approach where maybe we could all agree on that?
It could be, depending on the amount. Do we know if that's coming this week? Do we know if it's coming next week? You know, we've been given this guidance for months now about how you can safely return, and you know, with using the mitigation techniques that we have in place, and it should suppress the potential exposure to the virus. That would be up to this board. At this point, we're recommending the 1st. If the board wants us to wait until we have a definite guidance from the CDC, then we'll follow that path.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Markley. Appreciate the information you've shared with us. I would entertain a motion.
I have another question.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, maybe not a question, but just something to say. I mean, over the whole course of this thing, we've had several people who express varied opinions about what we should do. And I definitely appreciate that. But sometimes it seems like we don't have empirical data or that we can make these decisions off of, and things are constantly changing. However, one thing that we do know for certain, that when we're in quarantine or when we're in virtual, our numbers will go down. And we know that when we come back, our numbers will go up, and people at the very least will get sick. And we heard a very compelling case tonight of some of the things that may happen to families. And I'd say, based on not having empirical data, seeing that we're all sitting here on Zoom, I think it's quite telling that we would consider having people go back to something that we're not willing to. And so I think for me, without the data, it just lets me know that until I'm willing to meet with you guys to decide whether people go back to school, I think, I don't know that that's a consideration for me.
Well, some of us are not willing, but some of us have.
I mean, all of us.
Yeah.
All of us. And I'll be everybody here says, hey, let's go back, I'll go too.
I'd like to hear some opinions. I'd like to hear from people that haven't spoken. If they have questions or comments, I'm anxious to hear those views.
I'd just like to say, I mean, I think this decision, it's a hard decision, and I mean, you're either gonna make people happy, you're gonna make people mad, and you're split down the middle. And so whatever decision we make is just gonna be hard one way or the other. I will say, I was planning on coming in tonight before the roads were bad, and being in person. So that is my intention next month, is to be in person. I will say I'm in school every day, every Tuesday and Friday. I walk into a class with 28 other kids, and I sit in there for an hour and 15 minutes doing statistics. And I can't tell you I'm not afraid every time I go in there. But I also know that, you know, I have to do what I have to do. And I don't like it. I would rather we had direction from our governor about a vaccine and what's happening and a timeline, and yet we don't have that. And I don't think we're gonna get that. I don't have confidence in that. And so for me, it becomes, how long do we wait? And talking to students and parents and teachers, I feel like our best move right now is to go ahead and start hybrid. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Mr. President, I can sympathize with everything that was said tonight, and I know based on the statements that were made, as Beth said, this is not going to be an easy decision to make. Based on what Dr. Markley has said and what the CDC has said, it seems to me like that we can't guarantee anything, but right now the first seems like a viable option. I would lean that way. If the CDC comes out with something this week or something that is just totally shoots that out of the water and takes it out of an option, then I would hope that we could reconvene and come back and take a look at this before the 1st. But if that, and hopefully that would be an option that we have. But I think right now, based on kind of what the data is showing right now, we need to get these kids back and give this hybrid thing a try and get them involved back in the social and the personal contact with teachers and each other.
Thank you, Terry. And I'm not
Mr.
putting off
President.
discussion, but I would like to entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Ms. Tittle.
I move that the board approve the return of secondary students to a hybrid schedule, March 1st, 2021.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Still see if there's any other comments, questions, or other discussion.
I'd still like to hear some opinions from you, Rick, and from Amy.
My opinion echoes what it was before. I think it's time we come back and exactly what Beth said. We are not going to make this is a no-win situation. Half are going to be happy, half are not going to be happy.
Well, I agree, and I've thought a lot about it, as I know everyone has, and I read comments from the teachers, and then I read them again because I just wanted to see what kind of spoke to me, you know, and but then when it comes right down to it, I want the kids to be back, and I know how good it's been for the elementary kids, the few elementary kids I know. And also, I think that I trust our administration, Dr. Huff, the principals, and Dr. Markley. I trust them to make a recommendation that is in the best interest of our students and teachers.
I want to just to address this about the board being in Zoom and asking the teachers to attend. I think if my job told me if I want to keep my employment, and it may not put it in that frame, but the essence of it would be the same, that I needed to return back to in the plant to work, I would have to make a choice if that's what I can do, because for me, I don't want to be exposed to COVID because I know that it does so much damage to the body. Some people come through it fine. Some people don't come through it fine. Some people have, as the lady that stated tonight, has some damage that's permanent. I've known people that got it and they got over it, they thought, and then it came back upon them and attacked their lungs in such a way that it killed them. You know, you only have one life, and you have to make a choice as to what it is that you want to do with that life. If you're willing to put it in danger, then you make that decision. If you're not, then you make that decision. We have a situation before us as board members that we need to make. And I would definitely say that we should go virtual, but then I also know the side effects that many of the students have talked about. But I would just leave it up to the parents, as initially someone has stated it. Parents could make a choice, send their kids to school. School could be open, the parents make a choice. Send those kids that want to go in person could go in person. Those that want to do virtual. Same choice that we're making here as board members. Those that want to appear in the boardroom, they come. Those that want to do it on Zoom, they do it on Zoom. It's just a matter of choice. My choice is to do it in a safe environment, which is my home at this present time.
Anyone else before we vote on the motion? We get plenty of time. All right, voting on the motion. Ms. Plank,
Yes.
myself vote yes. Mr. Toady,
No.
Ms. Tittle,
Yes.
Ms. Salisbury,
No.
Mr. Landers,
Yes.
Mr. Burton.
No.
All right, and the item passes 4-3. All right, Dr. Markley, any final comments on that item or anything else on your report?
That's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much. We will move forward, and thank you, Dr. Huff, for your presentation also. And thank you, Dr. Hucks, for your committee and work you've been doing, even though we didn't hear from you this evening. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next item. All right, did you know?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
So on Did You Know, we wanted to start out by recognizing the Raytown Retired School Personnel Organization. They created some special yard signs that they delivered around the district to our buildings and facilities to show their appreciation, support, and gratitude for all of our staff during the COVID-19 pandemic. So those signs they're bright yellow signs, and we really appreciate them taking the time to show our staff their appreciation. Next up, the district has been selected as another platinum certified organization for the Healthy KC Awards. That certification recognizes area organizations for innovation and excellence in promoting a culture of health in the workplace. So we're one of 8 school districts around the KC Metro to earn the platinum certification, which is the highest level of achievement. And we've received it in 2017, 2018, and in 19, it became a 2-year process. So now from now on, when we receive it, it'll be for a 2-year period. We have some state theater awards. Students at Raytown High School, they earned excellent ratings in the Missouri Thespian Individual Events Competition. Chaley Bay, she earned an excellent rating in scenic design. She also earned, she's one of only 3 students in the entire state of Missouri to receive the Thespian Technical Scholarship. Aiden Harkin, he earned an excellent rating in the solo music category. And Phoenix Watson and Naomi Gunnerman, sorry, I'm so sorry for messing up her name. I practiced it over and over again. But Naomi Gunnerman earned an excellent rating in the duet musical category. Speaking of musical, Raytown High School's Department of Theater and Music will be presenting Pippin February 18th through the 20th at 7 p.m. with an additional matinee at 2 p.m. On February 20th in the high school auditorium. So we have ticket information posted on our Facebook page, and it's also included as a link for your Did You Know for the that's added to ESB. And then last but not least, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we have School Board Appreciation Week showing coming up February 14th through the 20th. And we just want to thank our school board members for all they do for our students and staff and our families. And tonight we actually have Raytown Mayor Michael McDonough to honor the Board of Education with a special special proclamation from the city of Raytown. I'm speaking too fast. My brain's not catching up. So Mayor, I will turn it over to you.
There we go. Sorry about the. See, Danielle, you're not the only one. I've had that today too. Okay. This is always a wonderful thing that I am always really glad to do every year, and appreciate the opportunity to usually be in the room with you all when we do this. So this is my first one doing this for you all by Zoom. I do a lot of things by Zoom nowadays, like you all do. So let me go ahead. First of all,
here we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, let me see if I somehow have managed to not have my. There we go.
All right.
All right.
See you
Sorry
then.
about that. Anyway, thank you for letting me come from my living room into your living rooms and giving you this proclamation. Whereas an excellent public education system is integral to the quality of life of the citizens in the Raytown community, and whereas school board members offer outstanding leadership and demonstrate tireless, committed service to the patrons and children of the Raytown School District. And whereas our school board members provide a solid foundation for our school system, which is the structure through which our community's future leaders are produced. And whereas school board members are strong advocates for public education through their work to understand the needs of our schools, and they dutifully lead the way toward ensuring that those needs are met. Now, therefore, I am Michael McDonough, Mayor of the City of Raytown, do hereby proclaim the week February 14th through the 21st, 2021, School Appreciation Week. And I call upon all residents to join in the worthy observance in recognition of our Board of Education essential role in ensuring the well-being and betterment of our community. The work that they do to ensure the quality of our education system is of the utmost importance. Signed this 8th day of February in the year 2021, Michael McDonough, Mayor. And may I say that I am a proud graduate of the Raytown school system, and I'm so glad I am, as well as one of my children. So thank you all for what you do. I know a lot of you personally, and I always thank goodness for all you do. And you have to make a lot of tough decisions, just like the rest of us in this COVID period. So keep up the good work, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that.
And thank you guys. That's all I have for
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, I believe we have committee reports.
Board, the first report there, 9.1 is actually the minutes from the September meeting that we approved at the February meeting. So we are bringing those to the board for you to act on and accept.
All right, is there a motion to approve these minutes?
Mr. President, I move the board accept the minutes of the 9/14/2020 curriculum and professional development meeting minutes.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. All right.
And 9.2 is actually the minutes from our February meeting. And just as a quick summary, we talked a lot about academic results from our most recent STAR tests, and as well as some elementary science results and our math results. As I had mentioned earlier on in the meeting, we are seeing a significant lag in our students' reading scores in our K1-2, a little less of a lag in 3, and then a rather nominal lag in our grades 4 through 8. All the grades are showing somewhat of a lag in some capacity. I'd say in the upper grades, we're seeing maybe a month of lag, whereas in the lower grades, I can't say a time frame, but it is fairly significant. I do want to reiterate that I do, though, in all of this, believe that our teachers are doing an amazing job. Even in the virtual setting, like I'd said before, with the younger students, what they're doing, I believe, is as good as can possibly be done, and very proud of the work that's going on there and actually good results. Everybody is seeing a lag across the country when it comes to the younger students, especially. Our science results, we're actually seeing better results this year than last year, which is really nice. So kudos to our teachers. And that's just for elementary science results. I don't have comparative data from one year to the next for our middle school and high school. Our math, we are seeing a lag, but it's really, we don't have, again, empirical data there because we don't have year over year comparative data. But what we are seeing is that teachers are struggling to cover the same amount of material, and we're having to make some adjustments to slow down in our math. And so we are seeing a lag in math as well. So that was the vast majority of our discussion. And we also discussed the recovery plan, which we brought to the board last month.
Any questions for Dr. Huff? All right. Raytown Educational Foundation report.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
The Raytown Education Foundation held its January meeting on January 27th. Highlights of that meeting are as follows. Share the Love Breakfast. The foundation Share the Love Community Breakfast is tomorrow. It will be a virtual event held by Zoom webinar format from our kitchen to yours. Hosted by the foundation executive chef, Chef REF, and featuring celebrity REF chefs, including Dr. Markley, Shelley Gwynn, Mayor Mike Baduna, Shirley Worth, Laretha Hayden, and Vicki and Chris Turnbow. A huge thank you goes to Brooke Ruffling for her video and technical assistance in making these virtual events a reality. Now, I will think I need to add something here. There were going to be pastries delivered tomorrow, but because the Herndon Career Culinary students were not in session today, they did not get baked. So the pastries that were to be delivered and picked up tomorrow will be picked up next week, I believe. Along with that foundation, or with that breakfast, the Pillar Awards, the Foundation Pillar Awards will be featured at the Share the Love breakfast tomorrow morning. The Pillar Awards recognize individual companies and organizations that have furthered the foundation mission and vision through exceptional philanthropic contributions or exceptional service. The 2021 Pillar Award recipients this year are: the Pillar of Giving Award is Walter A. and Charlotte Soul Family Foundation, and the Pillar of Service Award goes to Sally Fedrick. Fundraising also included in this report. In addition to the Share the Love Breakfast, the foundation will also be holding its Major Saver discount card campaign beginning tomorrow in the elementary schools. I don't know if that'll take place tomorrow, but it will start. Over the past 17 years, Major Saver campaign has generated $260,440 for our participating schools and $260,440 for the foundation. Because of COVID precautions, Major Saver has developed a contactless collection system for this year's campaign. And then really exciting news, the dual credit scholarship students that were on the wait list, thanks to the generosity of an anonymous donor, all students on the dual credit scholarship wait list will now be eligible to receive a scholarship. In addition, this individual's donation was significant enough to essentially underwrite the cost of this year's teacher and learning grant awards. Any questions? Don't ask. Martha's not here.
Well, the last thing you mentioned is fantastic. That's just excellent. And like you said, they want to remain anonymous, but I wish there was a way that we could send them a specific thank you.
Yeah. Well, I expect the foundation did that.
All right. That's really, really great news. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Landers? All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the February 8, 2021 consent agenda as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. And the motion carries. All right, next item. All right, this item has to do with the survey tools we would like to implement. I will entertain a motion, and then Dr. Shelton is going to give a brief explanation of what this is for the people who are listening on the meeting this evening. Is there a motion to adopt?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the purchase of a survey tool from Satchel Pulse in the amount of $33,000 per year, and a listening tool from K-12 Insight in the amount of $31,875 per year, for a total yearly expense of $64,875.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Shelton, you want to give a
Yes.
brief report on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moore. It was over a year ago, the Finance Committee asked the administration to research ways that we could provide and get feedback from our parents, students, and staff regarding their perceptions of the data, our enrollment of the district. Our enrollment has declined over the last 5 or 6 years. And through the RFP process, which the board approved the RFP probably last January, we gathered responses from 3 companies, Satchel Pulse, K-12 Insight, and Patron Insight. After reviewing those proposals, as well as going through presentations, we bring this recommendation to you. The first recommendation is to use the surveying tool. It's called Climate and Culture from Satchel Pulse. This surveying tool provides regular ongoing survey data every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however we would like to set it up. Those surveys are short in nature and give us an overall idea of the culture and climate of our district through the lens of students, staff, and parents. Typically 7, 8, 10 questions that can be answered in the span of 90 seconds. And that data is gathered throughout the year. Also, this tool, the survey tool, gives us the opportunity to create unique surveys on a variety of topics. They have resources, experts in this field that will help us develop these surveys, as well as analyze the data from these surveys. And these results are normed against national data that they gather. The second tool that we're asking you to approve tonight is a listening tool. This tool is placed on our webpage. It's a contact us button. It's unique in that patrons, parents, staff, students can go to this contact us button. They can open it up. They can provide some information in regards to what kind of question they have. They can type their question, and it's routed directly to the people who would be in charge of responding to that question. As an example, if someone had a question about transportation, that question be routed directly to Kevin Easley, the Director of Transportation. A question about residency would go directly to the Director of Admin Services, Shirley Early. A question about finance would come directly to me, and I could respond to that question in a very timely fashion, a very efficient way to get information. Also, it has a bot feature. There are many common questions that are asked repeatedly. The example I'll give you is residency. If a parent has a question about what to bring to residency, the bot feature would automatically read that question and provide that information. After 2 attempts of maybe not providing the right information, it then would respond to provide that question to Ms. Early, and she would respond the next day or the following day. The process that we went through, not only the RFP process, I mentioned the demonstration. The people who participated in that demonstration were myself, Dr. Huff, Melissa Tebenkamp in technology, Daniel Nixon in communications, as well as Dr. DeVilbus and Ms. Early as well. Any questions?
And just one other, as we talked about earlier in the Finance Committee meeting, these will be 1-year contracts. So we won't get tied into anything long-term if for some reason we don't want to continue with it.
I will mention that there is a third tool that we would like to consider, but not tonight, at a later date. It is a managed project tool where we would have a very deep dive into perceptual data, where we would ask the vendor would come on site, help us develop a very deep dive process, a survey, focus groups, a phone campaign, social media campaign where we can do a very deep dive in the perceptual data that we have. And from that data, a presentation will be made to the board, and then a marketing campaign would be developed from that. We felt it was important to wait to do that managed project until next spring, after hopefully we all are vaccinated, all back in the buildings and back to some type of normalcy. But at this point, we're recommending the surveying tool and the listening tool as presented.
All right, good. So we did discuss this earlier during finance meeting, but let's see if there's any other questions or comments.
I have a question.
Yes.
As I look at the RFP for K-12, it includes the managed survey for 28,000. Is that what you're referring to? We're deferring?
Yeah, yes, sir. Also, Patron Insight does a managed project as well. It was my opinion that the K-12 Insight managed project was more robust. And if I was going to make a recommendation tonight, I would make that recommendation to use the K-12.
You think their K-12 system was more robust?
Yeah, on the managed project side of the tools that we're considering. Once again, we're considering 3 tools: a surveying tool, a listening tool, and then the managed project tool. But I thought the K-12 Insight tool was more robust and would give us what we wanted so we can develop the marketing that we discussed in the Finance Committee.
So what is the problem we're trying to solve here through these surveys? Why is this important?
This is important, as I mentioned earlier. We have a need to understand the perception that our stakeholders have of the district. And these tools will allow us to gather that information so that we can develop programming, develop a product that our students want, parents want, and our staff can support.
So we're trying to, this will lead to the growth, hopefully to the growth of our enrollment.
That's one of the outcomes, but I think I don't know that I would say more importantly, but as equally important for those who are with us now, the product they have, they're very satisfied with, they're very proud of. And as you know, the best type of advertising is word of mouth advertising. And if our students, our staff, our parents, our taxpayers are out there touting the praises of our school district, that in itself will draw people to our district as well.
So we're really in a competition with other providers of educational services. Is that fair to say?
I would, yes, I would say that's very accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Say no. All right. The motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Shelton. All right. So, budget amendment item. Is there a motion to accept this amendment?
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Salisbury.
I move to reverse a global reduction made to the overall budget during the budgeting process. I move to accept the amendment to Fund 3 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, thank you. All right, we have some bond items here. I would entertain a motion on this item. Raytown South renovations.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve CB construction with a base bid of $1,889,000 after accepting alternates 1, 2, and 3. The contract amount would be $1,970,000 with a contingency of $197,000, bringing the total to $2,167,000.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Dr. Hux is here. I see Mr. Husted just joined us. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this item?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Tody.
Is it fair to say, where's Dr. Hux? I don't see you on the screen. Is it fair to say all of these projects were approved by the voters in the last bond issue, and this is simply fulfilling the promise that we made to them?
Correct.
Thank you. That's the only question I have.
My general questions on when would these projects at South start, and what was our estimate on this package?
All right, I can answer some of those questions for you. The project would start as soon as we are out of school for the school year. The overall cost, Sandy, can you jump in on that? We were below budget on it. That's what made us able to accept the alternates 1, 2, and 3.
All right.
I have that screen in front of me right now because my computer keeps on freezing.
Okay. That's good. So at least we are under the initial budget.
Correct.
All right.
Oh, is that these projects will be done by the summer?
Yes, they'll be done over the summer.
And that is the construction costs being much lower, or is it, how did that occur?
We had, if you looked at the bid tab, we usually only get 2 to 3 general contractors, sometimes 4 that come in. We had 6 or 7 contractors come in. The commercial market isn't super strong, so we had super competitive bids throughout the nature of it. We had, and that's just what drove the price to be more competitive.
And this $2,167,000, that's still under the budget?
Correct.
Well, what was the budget?
I don't have that screen in front of me at the moment. Sandy, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. So, good evening, board. It's great to see all of you. Mr. Burton, the original bid of $1,889,000 is approximately $400,000 under budget from what we had anticipated to get back on this. And as Mr. Husted said, there was a lot of competition for this project, more than we've seen in past years. A lot of times we're lucky to get 3 or 4 bidders in this bid environment, even going out early. This time we had 7, 8 that were interested in. So there's a lot of competition right now. The contractors are looking for work, and that really helped us out in this environment to be able to not only bring you in under budget, but also be able to accept some extra alternates on the project to get more work done.
So as far as right now, we're about right at budget.
No, sir, we are still under budget significantly.
Oh, 300. Okay, 100. Okay, 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and while you're on here, Sandy, so we talked in finance committee about speeding up some projects to save some money. So should we speed things up even more if we've got this kind of environment going on right now?
Well, that's a little difficult to do for summer work this year. We did go ahead and shift some projects into possibly 2022 type of work. I've been working with Dr. Hux and Dr. Shelton and Mr. Husted on projects that could be fast-tracked. Originally, the bond planning was from 2019 through 2025, and we've shifted most of the projects up in schedule in order to capitalize not only on a good bidding environment, but also to fight inflation, which helps your overall budget as well. We're going to cut down a lot on that inflation cost. So right now,
good idea. It's a good idea. We talked about that tonight in finance committee meeting. And since you're here, I just ask you, Dr. Sheldon's going to ask you anyway, but how come we're waiting until 2024 for the furniture purchases at Spring Valley and I think with Southwood? I can't remember whichever.
Southwood.
You can't just go ahead now and do those.
You absolutely could. That's up to this board when they want to try to do that. So the furniture projects are a little bit different than some of the construction projects. You know, those are the ones you can purchase furniture at any time.
Wouldn't we save money to do it now?
Yeah, it could, absolutely. It's a different type of purchase, so it's not something that we have to renovate or do construction for in order to do. Those furniture projects were ones that were not as high priority for this board and for your constituents that we were talking to during bond planning and during the master planning. So we added in because it was something that was requested by your staff, your students, and some community members to try to enhance and upgrade those furniture pieces. And so that's why they were later on in the bond, is because they weren't as expensive. We tried to front load your bond planning with the more expensive projects to the front to help you save costs in the long run. So yes,
But
you
we
could
think
fast track those.
we're going to have plenty of money to be able to do those, right?
Yes, sir. Right now, the overall bond budget, we've been working through that with Dr. Shelton. Right now, you are under budget on your bond significantly. So there's possibility for extra projects or being able to work.
That wasn't an extra one. That was one in the original list.
That's correct. And it is currently budgeted as part of the original list.
So let's maybe just at least take a look at that and see if we can move it up to number one, save some money. And because they requested it 2 years ago, so they probably don't want to wait another 3 years for it.
Sure. I mean, the way we created those. Go ahead. Sorry, Dr. Hucks.
Yeah, that's all right. Rick, we can definitely do that. That's a good suggestion. As part of this was in how we sold our bonds, and we had a budget set for the first half, and then we have to sell the remaining bonds.
Well, if it doesn't mess up anything with our bond financing, then let's at least look at it.
Yeah, and now that we're getting closer and we're under budget on our expenditures overall, it's something we can look at, Mr. Moore.
All right, thank you.
CB Construction, have we done a lot of business with them?
We have not. They're a new contractor to us. We vetted them out. Halston Miller has done a project with them in Clinton County, at Plattsburgh School District, where they performed well. They've also worked in a variety of other school districts as a subcontractor, not as a general contractor. They are fairly new to the general contracting business, but what the work that they have done that we've called about, everyone has been extremely happy with the way things have turned out.
Okay, because I'm real happy about the competitive environment, but also in this environment that people are anxious to get jobs. And even though we have this being under budget, we can't get too ahead of ourselves and start spending money before these projects are completed, not knowing the change orders that may come up or how people may have bid to be competitive and really struggle at doing these at that price. $400,000 is a lot of money to leave on the table.
Sure, and there's a lot of that goes on. It's just the nature of the project. Like I said, we vetted them out well and comfortable with the recommendation.
Yeah, that's why. Good to hear.
Another thing to comment on that, Mr. Burton, is that yes, they were the low bid and you did come in under budget. However, these bids were fairly tight. They were very close to each other. The next low bidder next to CB was only $2,000 off. So that puts confidence in our documents and the bidding environment, that we don't have just a random low bidder that is way different from the rest of the bidders. That's a good vetted price.
So I agree with you. I'm just also, when we actually set the budget ourselves, that affects how we plan our projects. And so, some of these things, I guess, the closer that our estimate is to the actual bid would actually be beneficial to us as well. There's some leeway in both. So, but I agree with you. I'm just saying, before we start moving projects up and really not knowing till these projects are complete, at some point, at some stage, we got to really be careful to not shoot ourselves in the foot because we think we have extra money.
So since this is a newer general contractor, you said we're confident that they haven't left out anything or have overlooked something that they should be?
Yes, we are.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, the motion carries. All right, is there a motion on the video board at Raytown High School?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve Nevco to provide and install a video board at Raytown High School in the amount of $85,478 with a contingency of $8,547.80 for a total of $94,025.80.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and I will just mention, because I asked about this, why are we doing something for Raytown? Well, the South one was already included in their overall big general bid, and for some reason, I'm not sure why this didn't get included in the Raytown's renovation of the gym. So someone can correct me if I said that incorrectly, but they're going to be at both schools.
Was this a competitive bid?
I'll let Josh or Travis answer that.
We use Nevco as our prime vendor for video boards and signage.
Was this a competitive bid?
My answer was no, in that this is our prime vendor.
How long would it take to get a competitive bid?
No one else sells Nevco signs other than Nevco. We'd have to determine that we would want to use a different company and then have to figure out how to maintain a different company's signs.
Is Nevco the only?
Travis, why don't you just mention, just quick, real briefly, what that means as a prime vendor, because I've had that question too in the past.
Okay.
We would normally bid this out, but Nevco is what we've already decided we're going to use for these type of projects. So tell us quickly what a prime vendor is.
A prime vendor is basically a sole source provider. Yes, other people can provide signs, but not the technology that we in Raytown use. And once you begin to have a number of something, whether it's roofs or signs, and you have a department like technology or facilities that has to maintain those, you know, we stick with one vendor so that we can maintain the knowledge we need to repair and maintain them, purchase parts and quantities that are beneficial to the district, et cetera.
And so in this case, all of our other scoreboards in the district are Nevco brand boards.
Yes, including all the digital video boards out front of all the schools as well.
Okay, that's fine. So in light of all that information, we're confident that this is a reasonable price, even though we didn't bid. Is that fair?
Correct. Now, I will say about 8 years ago, you know, we did initially do a competitive bid when we started doing video boards and that sort of thing. So we've stayed with them since.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Say no. All right, the motion carries. Oh, we're at the end. Didn't realize that was the last item. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I move that the board adjourn the Nevco Board of Education meeting at 8:24 p.m.
Second.
All right, all in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you for all those who joined us this evening too. We are adjourned.